Would you believe that the continent often associated with poverty and conflict is actually where the story of humanity began? Before the Roman Empire, before ancient Greece, before even the pyramids of Egypt. Africa was already the place where life took its very first steps. This continent was not just a place where humans lived. It was the very cradle of our shared history.
It was a center of civilization, trade, and powerful kingdoms.
But history has not always told Africa's story this way.
What was hidden? What was ignored?
Today, we travel back to the very beginning of that story.
To understand Africa's true story, we must go back further than written history, far beyond kingdoms and empires.
Millions of years ago, Africa was not just a continent. It was the cradle of early human life. In these lands, the earliest human ancestors began to walk upright. Learning to survive in a world shaped by heat, predators, and constant change. Fossil evidence found in East Africa tells us something extraordinary. From a single continent, the human journey began to spread across the entire planet. But Africa was never just a beginning. It was also the foundation of future civilizations yet to come. Before empires rose anywhere else in the world, Africa was already shaping the story of humanity. As thousands of years passed, Africa evolved from the cradle of humanity into the home of some of the world's earliest civilizations. At the heart of this transformation flowed one extraordinary river, the Nile. Every year, its waters flooded the land, leaving behind rich soil that made farming possible. With food came stability. With stability came cities. And with cities came civilization.
Ancient Egypt became one of history's greatest kingdoms, famous for its pyramids, pharaohs, and remarkable achievements in engineering, writing, and medicine. But Egypt was not alone. South of Egypt, the kingdom of Kush rose as a powerful civilization, trading gold, iron, and luxury goods across Africa and beyond.
Centuries later, the kingdom of Aksum connected Africa with Arabia, India, and the Mediterranean through thriving international trade. These civilizations were not isolated. They exchanged ideas, technologies, and cultures with the wider world. And this was only the beginning. Far to the west, new kingdoms were preparing to build unimaginable wealth. But while powerful kingdoms flourished along the Nile, another extraordinary story was unfolding thousands of miles to the west, beyond the endless sands of the Sahara. For centuries, the Sahara was not a barrier. It was a highway connecting civilizations.
Merchants crossed these unforgiving deserts, carrying two of the ancient world's most valuable resources, gold and salt.
Control the trade. and you controlled unimaginable wealth.
As Ghana declined, another empire emerged, larger, richer, and destined to leave an unforgettable mark on history.
Its name was Mali. Its most famous ruler was Mansa Musa, whose wealth became legendary across Africa, the Middle East, and Europe. While great civilizations flourished along the Nile, another remarkable story was unfolding thousands of miles to the west. The Sahara was not a barrier. It was one of the world's greatest trade routes, linking West Africa to North Africa and beyond. Merchants carried gold from the south and salt from the north, creating a trade network that generated enormous wealth.
The first empire to dominate this trade was the Ghana Empire, which prospered by controlling the flow of commerce across the desert.
As Ghana declined, a new power emerged, one that would become one of the richest empires in history.
The Mali Empire controlled vast reserves of gold, making it one of the wealthiest states of the medieval world.
And from Mali came a ruler whose wealth became the stuff of legend. Mansa Musa.
During his pilgrimage to Mecca in 1324, he traveled with thousands of people and so much gold that his generosity affected local economies.
Mali was more than wealth. Cities like Timbuktu became renowned centers of learning, attracting scholars from across the Islamic world. As Mali's influence faded, the Songhai Empire rose to inherit its legacy, becoming one of the largest and most powerful empires in African history.
Yet just as these great empires reached their heights, the next chapter of Africa's history would change the continent forever. By the 15th century, European ships had begun appearing along Africa's coasts, searching for new trade routes and valuable resources. What began as trade gradually evolved into exploitation, forever changing the course of African history. Over the centuries, millions of Africans were forcibly taken across the Atlantic in one of history's greatest human tragedies. The loss of countless lives and communities left deep scars that would be felt for generations. In the late 19th century, European powers gathered to divide Africa among themselves, with little regard for the people who lived there. Within just a few decades, most of the continent had fallen under colonial rule. But Africa's story did not end with colonization. Across the continent, resistance never disappeared. After the Second World War, independence movements gained unstoppable momentum. One nation after another reclaimed its sovereignty, reshaping the political map of Africa. Freedom brought new hope, but it also marked the beginning of a new chapter filled with challenges, resilience, and opportunity. Today, Africa is home to the world's youngest population, extraordinary natural resources, yet its greatest story may still be waiting to be written.
Today, more than 1.5 billion people call Africa home, making it one of the fastest-growing regions on Earth.
After centuries of change, Africa stands at the beginning of a new chapter, one defined not only by its past, but by its future.
It is also home to the world's youngest population, filled with ambition, creativity, and endless potential.
Across the continent, technology, renewable energy, science, and education are driving a new era of progress. Yet Africa continues to face challenges. from poverty and conflict to climate change and economic inequality. But history has shown that resilience has always been one of Africa's greatest strengths.
From the first human footsteps to powerful kingdoms and modern nations, Africa has helped shape the course of human history.
Its story is not one of a single nation or a single people. It is a story shared by all humanity. The next chapter of Africa's history is still being written, and the world is watching.
Because to understand Africa is to understand where humanity began, and perhaps where its future will be shaped.